All right, there we go. That's better. Is that better? That's better. That's better. Sorry about that. I was wondering why you guys were being so unresponsive and talking amongst yourselves so well. Okay, thank you, Taekwondo Replays, for saying, hey, today the pre-show without Tom and only we in the chat. There you go. Hello, PI. And Marie and Daniel and Chris and Taekwondo and PI, which is probably Miranda, and Rudy. And Tommy was here earlier. So glad to have you guys. There we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Yeah. Still got some bugs to work out here with this new PC. Probably trying to do too many things. One of the things I'm trying to do today, which I'm interested in for your comments, is I've got some real spiky hair going, and I wanted to see how the chroma key was doing with that. So you just never know. And Marie and Jan are home. All right. Well, let's see. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. We don't need it. We'll get rid of that. And welcome from Halifax. Glad to have you. Is it G-Banga or is the G or the B silent? Help me out with that one just a tad. Oh, Danielle. Yes, welcome to YouTube. Well, it's good to be here, as it were. Oh, my goodness. All right. Gee whiz. You just never know. Never, never, ever, ever, never, ever know. Let's see. There's Mags. Welcome. Glad to have you. Hey, Dean. Glad you're here. It's just GB. All right. Got it. Welcome, GB. That's a good way to do it. That's a good way to do the name thing. So if you haven't gotten the word, NAB has moved up its schedule this year, and they'll start on Sunday instead of Monday. So it'll be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the trade show portion. I'll be getting up there, I think, Friday. And my lovely wife, Sandy, is coming with me. Can't wait. And she'll be helping me host the Streaming Idiots meetup on Monday night, not Tuesday this year, but Monday, second night of NAB, but a night sooner than before. All right, well, let's switch over to the studio. We'll get started with the show. We're going to be talking about the BirdDog. Yes, we are. The BirdDog PTZ controller, because we never really finished that last week. Hey, Todd, welcome. River of Life Church. Okay, hold on a second. I'll remember who that is in just a minute. I know it's first nature to you to remember, but for me, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. All right, so we'll flip over to the other side, and we may have to do a little camera work to get that right, because we didn't do that beforehand. Let me mute the cell phone here. There we go. All right. Let's see. Do we have a... oh, yeah, we better do that. Hold on a second. Nobody move. Okay, well, that's there. Oh, I see. It's just number 5. So let's put it on the show tab. All right, so that's going to show up. And you guys will show up. All right, I think we're good. Hey, Ken. It's good to see you or be seen by you. Ken and I had some chats on the phone this morning. All right, let's see what we can do with this shot right here. 1 second. All right, let's see now. Is this going to work if we zoom in? That's right, and then pan up and see the the table goes out of the way. And then we'll go a little here. Now I want y'all to tell me, how is the chroma key doing with the spikes right there? That was the question for today, the production question. All right, and let's see what you guys say. Nothing yet. All right, so that looks pretty centered-ish. And we will move a stool over here so we can take our X keys 80. Oh, I got to show you what Dave sent. I may not have time for that today, but I haven't forgotten, Dave, I promise. All right, so we got audio. You can see Rooney right there. Looks good, says Daniel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's, oh, I forgot my lemonade. 1 second. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Counting on you not going anywhere. Plus, I'm stalling to give Marie time to get in and get her foot up. There we go. So now I've got the lemonade. Oh, that's so good. Country time. We go through so much lemonade at my house, we have to buy it in the big jugs. Well, it's a container. It's a dry. We mix it. All right. So let's. Thank you, Amanda. All right. So let's start the show. You know, it's funny. The button that's you can't see what the button is labeled, but it's one of these two purple buttons right here. Well, actually, here and here. And it's when I very first started with the wonderful opening that Martin Kay made for me probably 5 or 6 years ago now. And it started out with a fade to black, part 1. So the button says FTB part 1. And it's not part 1 anymore, it's the whole thing. And then the outro is the outro. So we'll go FTB part 1. Hello, Peter H. Welcome. Let's go. Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair. This is Streaming Idiots. I'm delighted that you would take time out of your busy day, or your busy evening, as the case may be, or even morning, for that matter, and take a peek at what's going on here. Streaming Idiots. Really excited about today's show. I mean, when am I not excited about a show? But you remember, was it 2 weeks ago? I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, we did an unboxing of the new BirdDog PTZ keyboard. And it was basically, it didn't do anything. Now, in all fairness to the BirdDog, we were not using the BirdDog cameras, and I'm sure it works hand in glove with the BirdDog cameras. We weren't even using NDI cameras. We were using a PTZ Optics 12X SDI HDMI IP, and controlled over Visca, but it wasn't meshing. It wasn't working. And so we had been waiting for a firmware update for the keyboard that had been promised, but the coronavirus had slowed up the process. I mean, they had Chinese New Year, and so some of the Chinese folks that were the engineers working on this project with Dan and Eamon from BirdDog, they were on holiday. And then with the virus, they were told to stay on holiday. So the whole process got set back, probably to maybe 3 weeks. I don't know exactly. But finally, a beta was made available last week, I think Friday, maybe Saturday. I got it yesterday and had a super fun afternoon with my buddy RJ Murdoch. You've seen RJ on the show before. He does a lot of basketball and has done some really neat things. He's the one that had the pegboard that had all his controllers attached to it, so it simplified his setup and teardown. RJ was here and brought with him 3 PTZ optics cameras, 2 of which were NDI cameras. So we had 4 cameras in the studio. And maybe 3 minutes before he got here, I downloaded the firmware. And I thought, you know, do I dare try to install it right now? Excuse me. And I thought, you know, why not? It's the streaming idiot, right? Just whatever you do, it's going to be a learning experience. And so I had the file, and I went into the PTZ keyboard interface, the web interface, which is really simple to get into. And all you have to do is put in the IP address for the keyboard, and it brings up the interface, and it asks you for the password, which, unless you change it, the password is BirdDog. No spaces, no dashes, BIRDDOG. I guess all lowercase. That's what I've used. And so, and it had a little button for updating the firmware. And so I pressed the button, and it said, "What file do you want to use?" And so I navigated to where the file was and said, "Okay." And then, you know, 15 seconds later, it said, "Okay, we're done. You know, reboot the keyboard, and it'll be updated." So I did, and it was. And so RJ came in, and we played around with it, had a lot of fun, and found out that the firmware update does allow the keyboard to control the PTZ Optics NDI camera and to control Visca over IP, although Andrew Seabrook in Australia with Mind IT mentioned to me that the Visca over IP formula that PTZ Optics use is slightly different than the Visca over IP formula that the BirdDog guys use. So what I thought I would do is sort of take you through the process. The firmware update's done, so we're not going to go there, but I want to take you through the process that I went through yesterday of configuring cameras, configuring the keyboard, and again, hat tip to Andrew for helping me fill in some of the blanks on this. Before I do, does anyone have any questions before we get started here? Okay. RJ is monitoring the show while setting up a studio for a client shoot in an hour. Ken is checking out the stream prior to his worship team sound check. So I'm just kind of like, you don't have anything better to do? Tune into Streaming Idiots. I got it. Okay, that's cool. All right, so let's see. Can we go to camera 5? There we go. There's camera 5. And we'll take off the lower third. And we can see here is our keyboard. It's power over Ethernet. Now, there are lots of RJ45 jacks, but only one of them is for IP. This one is for RS-232. This one is for RS-422. And I don't know what that one for is. Maybe that's, oh, it's RS-422A and RS-422B. So that one right there, the second one from the left, is the one for IP. It's PoE. There's a little shiny switch right here that has an obvious off and on portion to it. That's the power jack. You can put headphones in if you're going to use comms. We're not going to get into any of that today because we haven't done that. But what we did want to see, and let's see if I can move this up a little closer to the camera. Excuse me, I don't have a cam that's going to work well, so I'm just going to have to hold this. So excuse me if it makes you a little seasick. The screen right here tells us what's going on, and essentially these two knobs here allow us to control the function of the screen, and I'll show you that in just a second, or at least the setup portion. The buttons down the side here that control the color, what RJ said is the shading, apparently are somewhat still a work in progress, and I'll show you what I was able to get them to do yesterday. And then we've got the zoom here, and then of course the zoom with the joystick control here. Haven't really gotten into the keyboard other than we were able to basically select cameras yesterday by pressing a button like number 1 and then pressing the cam key. So one, excuse me, 1 and cam, activated camera 1, 2 in cam, 3 in cam, that kind of thing. The other thing, if you've got this keyboard, I'll save you some looking. Let's see if we can get it zoomed in really well right here. There is a key right here. It's my favorite key. It's called the backspace key. And that's the key you hit. If you make a mistake when you're entering some numbers, you can use the backspace key. And it's conveniently placed, not in a place that we would expect a backspace key to be on any other keyboard, but that's okay. This is a unique keyboard. So we're going to go into setup mode. In fact, we may already be in setup mode. Let me spin it around just a second so I can see. Let's get out of setup mode so I can show you how we got there. Okay. I haven't reset this camera since we used it yesterday, and you can see it says that cam 1 is set for NDI, and then it's got an IP address. Well, that IP address is not good, and of course, in fact, this controller may be set up for yesterday's IP. So let's go through the process of setting up the controller. We'll press the setup button, and then the password is 000 until we change it, of course. We've got the ability to change camera settings, number 1, and keyboard settings, number 2. We're going to change the keyboard first. And then once we've turned this button to move the little greater than sign where we want it, we just mash it in to make our selection. So we're going to make IP configuration, so we'll mash. Oh, that didn't work, did it? There we go. Static IP address, yes, 192.168, and actually 001 is what we want there. And then 155 is fine. Subnet mask gateway is going to be 001. And we'll exit. And then I like to go back in and check again and make sure I got it. We can see this one. Yeah, it didn't stick. Oh yeah, it did. It's a 1. Okay, good. And that one stuck there. All right, very good. Okay, button light we're not going to worry about. The assign key, factory default, IPIO, password settings, joystick, zoom is on, model info. Visca IP setting. Let's just take a look in there and see where it says. Yeah, we didn't change any of this, so I'm just going to leave this. It talks about the header and the port. We just left those the way they were. So we're going to exit now, and we'll go into camera settings. Camera number 1, and we're going to make it. Go ahead and set the IP address for 00. Whoops, wrong space. Let's go back. 001, and then 102. So we'll save that by pressing the second button here, and then we'll exit again. I think there was another camera setting. Let's see if we can go find it, because they did ask us about. Yeah, cam 1 is NDI, and that's not right, and it's not showing the right address. Oh, yeah, no, that is the right address. Okay, so let's go back to setup and see if we can find out what we missed here. Camera settings. Yeah, protocol is not NDI. change that. There we go. Visca, Pelco, Visca over IP. That's what we want right there. So that looks right. Let's see. Nope, we don't have any camera control yet. Hang on one second. There we go. I could rotate the overhead camera. Yeah, that's a good idea. Hang on a second. Let's try that. We've used some really high-tech methods today for this camera that include gaff tape. So we'll see if we can duplicate that shot. It would have been great, actually. Tell you what, if you guys give me a sec, I can set up a tripod, which would have been a better idea to begin with, and see if maybe we can't just get a better close-up. 1 second, let's see. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. This is a polished professional at work here. We'll just use a little baby tripod like this and see if we can't get it to get enough height on it to show the keyboard. Now, let me go switch the camera around, and we'll be right back. Sorry for all this rigmarole. Didn't think it through well enough. Let's see. That's what we want right there. But we really want to not be zoomed in quite so much. So let's do that. And then let's flip it. Well, let's do that. Let's start there, then we'll flip. We'll flip first and then zoom. Okay, that'll work a little better. John, good thought. Good thought, good thought, good thought. All righty. So, let's take a look at the camera and see what we missed. Actually, you know, I would have rotated it in vMix. Well, I did rotate it in vMix, but I put the camera here so that I didn't have to hold on to the keyboard. So let's go back to the keyboard and let's see what we can do to get our camera control right. So we're going to go back to setup. Password is 0000. Got that part down. Camera setting, we're going to press that button to go into camera setting. Protocol is Visca over IP, which is right. There we go. So now we're going to set the address. Yep, that's good. Payload header is actually off. So we'll go down there, and the port is I think it's 1259. Let's try that. Yep. So we'll exit, And we'll exit. Now, let's see if we've got a camera that will control. Nope, still don't have a camera that's controlling. Let's see, what do we need to do here? Let's double check our setup one more time. Probably should have written down what I did yesterday. Camera settings. Yeah, I think it was just Visca over IP that we used. And payload header off. Well, we can check the payload. Let me check the reference on the port. That may be where it's a UDP port in the camera. So let me check and make sure I've got that right. And I've got all my references here. So it's handy. Okay, Visca IP setting, port 1259, and the payload header is off. Let's make sure that we got all those settings right. So we've got payload header off, port 1259, and the IP address. You know, let's double check the IP address and make sure that we're right on that too. Might be triple check at this point. One sec. Yep, 192.168.1.102. And so we've got 192.168.1.102 payload header off, port 1259. We're good there. Let's go back to the keyboard setting and check and make sure. Looks like everything's right there. I don't recall that we messed with that at all yesterday. We'll select camera 1 just in case there's any. Nope. Well, what did we do wrong today? Yeah, we don't have any of the. Oh, you know what? I did a factory reset earlier. I wonder if the factory reset has reset something like maybe the firmware. Haha. Well, golly gee, guys. That's what you get for bringing something out without double checking it. Tim says, does it matter which hole the LAN cable is in? Yes, it does. It does. As a matter of fact, there are 4 different choices, as you can see there. And there's a nice graphic on the bottom, or excuse me, on the side, right there. Can't really see it very well. Yeah, there we go. and NDI IP is this one. RS-232 is this one. RS-422A, 422B are those. So we're in the right port. Plus, we also know we're in the right port because we're powered on and we've got the active screen there. So we're in plenty of, let's see, can we switch camera 2? Yep. Camera 3. Yep. Those are the cameras we were using yesterday. We'll go back to camera 1. And we don't have any control over it. Huh, what a disappointment. I'm sorry, guys. Is the camera turned on? That's a great question, RJ. And that is this camera right here. So yeah, the camera's on. And let's see, sometimes they're numb. Well, sometimes I'm dumb. So there we go with it. Let's have another go here. And we know that we didn't have to use any of these keys to do, see if we can put something under it right here. Make it at least a little bit easier to see. There we go. We didn't have to use any of these keys because all these keys are the shading keys. The function keys and other command keys here we haven't used yet. And for the most part, we've only used the number pad keys to put in a number of some kind. A and the B, haven't gotten into that. We've used the joystick and then our, actually these are our PTZ controls. I still don't think that they have given us any ability to control anything. We'll go back through it one more time. Setup. Camera setting, camera 1. Title, we can put in a title if we wanted to. Protocol, VSCA over IP. Oh, let's back up one step. And we see that we've got choices of NDI, VSCA, Pelco D, Pelco P, and VSCA over IP. So we're going to select that one. And then in that, we're going to select our IP address, 192.168.102. Payload header is off. And the port is 1259. And we will exit. So obviously we've done something wrong again here. That looks like the firmware that we had yesterday, which was 0.0.4 NDI. VSCA IP settings. Don't think we changed those yesterday. Control mode, video router switch, and PTZ controller. Yep. Well, we will just have to do, let's just do a reset. Let's just turn it off and turn it back on again. That may be part of what we need to do to make those settings good. So we'll turn it back on again. And what it'll say here for about a minute or maybe even 2 is the keyboard initializing. And so if you have one of these and it doesn't say anything other than this for just a few minutes, that's not unusual. It's a good possibility, but that's the way it's set up for you as well as for me. Tim just noticed in YouTube that the category for this show is comedy. Tim, that's been there for 3 years, and I kept waiting for somebody to get to see and to tell if we were doing it right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got cam 1, Visca IP. Okay. 192.168.1.10. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we just had to reset. So we'll cut to that cam. That's that cam right there. And now I've got the ability to zoom in. Not that you would want to zoom in that much. Now that we've got that part working, let's we can see that our knobs that are where our control knobs, now that we're not in the setup mode anymore, these are our pan tilt speed. And notice how the little LED lights light up to tell us that's full speed, that's slowest speed, that's half speed. And then for the zoom speed, the same way. I think we noticed that this 0 speed right here was barely moving, and when we went to the second light, it it increased by a factor of 10. So not sure if that's something that has to be ironed out or not. But and then over here on the left side, the shading controls, we do have the ability to change the exposure, and you notice how the display keyboard here, now we're in manual iris gain, and we can adjust that with this button. Manual shutter gain, again, we can adjust it with this button. Auto exposure, black level, iris priority, and shutter priority. And when I go to iris priority, you notice the iris light, well, can you see that? The iris light here comes on. And then when I go to shutter priority, the shutter light comes on. And then I have the ability to make changes to it like that. So, for example, this would be a great place for a picture-in-picture. But with shutter priority, as I change the shutter priority, we can see that it does actually have an effect on what I'm doing. As I move into manual iris gain, you can see that has an effect. Manual shutter gain, we'll go back to auto exposure. And at auto exposure, of course, the knobs really don't do anything at all. We'll go back to iris priority there. So we've got that control over it. And then here with this section, there's a key right here called WB. That's white balance. And so as I can turn the white balance off, and when I do that, we can see that it really messes up my chroma key. That's turning the white balance off. Turn it back on, and, and you see that it did away with the adjustments that I had stored in the camera already. We'll turn the white balance off, hit one push, and that did a little bit. And we have the ability, yeah, our red and blue knobs are not really functioning to this point. Let's see, let's go back to auto exposure up here. There we go. And then we'll turn the white balance on. All right, and if we turn it off and go to one push, we're still in about the same place. And now we've got the ability, at least our lights came on right here to make us think we can do something with these buttons. You can see the light here and here, but they don't appear to do anything. Even though the red or the R and B, which I'm assuming is red and blue, the red and blue numbers do move on the dial here, it doesn't make any changes to the camera. We cranked these all the way up and all the way down, and it didn't appear to make any difference. So let's go back to white balance at least as much as we can. Auto exposure. And then the last control down here on the bottom is the focus control. And you've got auto and manual. So we're in auto right now. That's what the little blue light there means. We can turn it off. And now we've got the ability to focus in and out with the knob. So I can find that good sharp area, or I can just do an autofocus. And I can do a one push autofocus, whatever that might be. All right. So we've got the keyboard. We've got the keyboard working. It's controlling the pan, tilt, and zoom of the camera. We've got the ability to control the speed of the pan and the tilt, and the zoom. We've got the ability to control the exposure. We can control within some limits the white balance and also the focus. I think the zoom control here will also impact the speed of the zoom on this button down here. Let's see. Yeah. So if we go back to the main shot, I've got the zoom control all the way down, and that's maximum speed. And then if I turn the zoom speed knob all the way up, you can see we've picked up a lot of speed with that. This is definitely a quick and dirty demo unboxing, but we're much further ahead than we were this time 3 weeks ago. We've got a controller that controls the PTZ optics camera, not the NDI version. Yeah, you can see now I've got stripes in here because of the. See if we can do anything with that. No, we're not going to. We're screwed. The other thing to notice is the little text here. Let's go back to the white balance and turn that back on, and then we'll turn it off again and go to one push, and you can see that in the display, the on-screen display does show up. That didn't happen with the NDI cams that RJ had in the other day. And yeah, Otis is saying power it off and back on. Right. Wixton, glad you're here. Dean says, do you think you might have to change the payload and port number at the keyboard level to match the one on the camera? You know, Dean, I questioned that same thing, and there we go. Yeah, obviously the vMix chroma key was counting on a certain a certain amount of white balance or whatever, and it's obviously not working. Let's see. Can we just turn that off with the... Okay, you can see those right there. So we'll go into exposure. That didn't help. That's why you don't do this stuff live. Let's see. Let's go back. We'll try just one more time down here with the color. Yeah, it looks like we're pretty well. Let's go back there. Yeah, that's not going to make any difference. Okay, we're screwed. we're screwed. All right, let's go back over to the post show. We're going to fade out of the show at this point, And we'll come back and post show and answer your questions. Hang around. We'll be right back. And that's what happens when you don't practice any of this stuff in advance. A split screen would have been a good idea, Otis. Hadn't thought about that till just now. Putting the Easter in Eastern broadcasting. Yeah, there we go. Dean said, could you, oh golly, he said, could you pan left and right? Would like to follow the speaker as he or she moves right and left. Want to make sure it's not choppy. Dean, we played with this quite a bit yesterday, and if I can get the camera to cooperate and turn it back on properly, let's see if I can make an adjustment with that here. Color key, is that going to work? Yeah, it looks like I may have to spend some time getting my camera fixed. But the let's see, what's the best way to say it? Using the PTZ Optics camera, Visca over IP, the control, I think the control was smoother than the PTZ Optics IP controller. When RJ was here with his NDI cameras and we were using NDI to control the cameras, that was almost as smooth. If you've ever used the NDI Studio monitor and the mouse to control the camera, you know that it's really silky smooth. Using the BirdDog PTZ keyboard with an NDI PTZ Optics camera was very good. It did not have the high-end camera kind of ramp up in terms of speed, starting slowly and moving more rapidly and then slowing down when you reach the destination. It did not do that, but it did move smoothly from a pan up to a pan upright or to a pan right, to make the camera go around in a circle was a smooth motion. It wasn't a stair step motion at all. The speed knobs for the pan tilt and for the zoom were really helpful in not getting an out of control zoom. Or an out of control pan tilt as we got used to the joystick. I would think, and RJ and I had this as a discussion yesterday, that the quality of the production is going to be part with the keyboard and camera and part with the operator. Just that operator's ability to anticipate. There's going to be latency in the joystick. There's latency from when you tell it to move, and latency when you tell it to stop moving. So there's some amount of anticipation that has to go on. But it's like any other skill. The more you do it, the better you get. I would, if I were considering this keyboard right now, I would consider it for NDI cameras. I probably wouldn't consider it for a Visca over IP, although you can use both. We had both Visca over IP and NDI operating simultaneously yesterday. The one thing that I'm look forward to testing if I get a chance is to bring in a PTZ Optics, to bring in a BirdDog camera and to test the BirdDog and see if I can't get the quality of the movement to be even more, maybe not precise is the right word, but a little bit more smooth and more natural looking, like there's a regular camera guy going on. So that's in some ways the jury's still out, but if I felt like I had to make a keyboard decision today for my NDI cameras, I would feel comfortable going with this camera. I mean, with this keyboard. And part of the reason for that is the experience I had yesterday. And the other part of the reason is the faith that I have in the BirdDog guys, that they have a very solid track record of releasing a product that has a lot of promise and delivers on some of those promises out of the box. And as time goes on, delivers on the rest of those promises. And then it delivers on promises that it never even made. So it wouldn't surprise me if this keyboard can do a lot more than what they say. They just haven't, again, they haven't gotten the firmware up to date on it yet. If you've got one of these keyboards and you want to get the latest beta firmware 0.0.4, I believe if you send an email to BirdDog, they will send you a link. If you are a member of the BirdDog user group, my guess is that you probably can get one there. And that if you're a member of the BirdDog beta tester user group, I think it's posted, the link is posted there. Dean's saying this is NDI, not NDI-HX. No, thank you for the clarification, Dean. The cameras that we were testing yesterday were NDI-HX, and they were pretty smooth. I mean, it was a PTZ optics camera, but it was with the NDI license that enabled the NDI-HX. But I'd like to be able to test the full NDI, the P100 or the P200 from BirdDog, to see how this keyboard is able to make those guys operate. This keyboard is actually headed for a client up in Wisconsin who has some NDI PTZ optics cameras. And he asked me to kind of work the bugs out of the keyboard before I sent it to him. So I think based on the firmware that's available now, I haven't heard any word of any other firmware coming down the pike. I would say this is usable, with the exception of the shading controls. Shading controls were not reliable, or else I wasn't knowledgeable enough to be able to control them the way they needed to be controlled. You saw what happened to my color there on the end, that Wixton's like, what's going on there? Gee whiz. All right. Let's see. What did RJ say earlier that I missed? He said, you've got the camera's web interface to confirm my P settings. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that is, or was, a second look at the BirdDog PTZ controller. There are functions that we haven't even begun to explore yet. One, for example, would be the BirdDog comms. You can plug a headset into that keyboard. You can plug a headset into the BirdDog, I think the BirdDog Mini. I'm not sure if you can plug one into the BirdDog Studio or not. I'll have to check. But it does give you the ability within the BirdDog ecosystem to have communications. The Comms Lite, I think, is a free product that has, I think, maybe one or maybe two or three different locations, whereas if you get more than that, you need to go to Comms, which would be the full Comms package, which would be quite a bit more. There's John. Hey, John. John is with BirdDog. And I hope you didn't see the whole thing, but it was a good example of how somebody stumbles through setting it up and has success eventually. John, while you're here, if you wouldn't mind, do you know the firmware that I was using was 0.0.4, and we were using it on a Visca over IP PTZ optics camera. And we had full pan, tilt, and zoom functions. including the ability to control the speed of the zoom and the pan tilt. We had focus controls, and we had the ability to do some white balance controls, but I'm not sure they were working correctly. And RJ says, please note the NDI Studio Monitor app actually did a decent job with smoother camera movements via mouse or Xbox controller. Okay, so noted. So noted. So I'm curious, John, if you can speak to this, if okay, there we go. The newest beta is 1.0.4, which is for the Visca IP function. Okay, well that must be what I have, because I was controlling Visca. Let me go check the firmware on this thing. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go to Setup, Password, Keyboard Setting, Model Info. Yeah, it says firmware version 0.0.4 NDI. So if there's something, yeah, it'll say, firmware. I'll show you what it says. Looks like it's having trouble focusing there, but it's FW version colon 0.0.4 NDI. So it doesn't say version 1. But I can look at the file that I used to update it. So is VO.1 different than V1? Is my question for John. John, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot with all this, but I do appreciate you. Yeah, let's see. Where did we put that stuff? I think we put it in the BirdDog folder. BirdDog keyboard. Yeah, the file that we used was BirdDog keyboard 1.0.4.fw. So we were using the latest, greatest. Yes. All right. So anyway, we weren't able to get the white balance, the knobs, the red and blue knobs on the white balance to do anything. They did change the numbers on the display, but they didn't appear to have any effect on the camera. Yes, we're on the latest. Oh, I see the line below it where it says IPvo.1. Gotcha. Okay, that's fair. It just didn't all fit on the same line. Okay, well, it's good to know that we got that much of it correct. That's pretty good. And yeah, John, I'll write up a little bit more of a little more detail, again, based on a total novice experience. You know, could be operator error as much as anything else. I'm not a camera guy. I'm a live streaming guy, but I'm not a camera guy. So, but we appreciate John popping in today. The BirdDog team is at ISE in Amsterdam, and they're probably just finished their day. It's probably about 9 o'clock over there now. I was tempted to invite some of you guys to see if you wanted to pop in on the stream, but I knew after a day at the trade show, number one, you'd be pretty tuckered out, and number two, the last thing you want to do is mess around with me. Not like that, but that's but that dealing with an idiot can be a challenge. All right. Well, I am excited. I see a lot of good potential here. And it will be interesting to pop into the BirdDog booth at NAB in a couple of months and see how this keyboard has continued to improve. And that's the thing I love, is that a lot of products, you get the product and it's right out of the box, it's going to do everything that it was going to do. But here with the BirdDog line, that that there's going to be ongoing improvements. The other thing is that BirdDog is announcing at ISE is some BirdDog wall plates. It's a wall plate that has HDMI jacks on it. There's two of them, one for NDI converted to HDMI out, and one for HDMI converted to NDI in. And so you can set up your conference room or your studio, and if you don't have a network camera, that is a camera that would plug into your IP network, you can take the camera HDMI and plug it in, or if you wanted to plug a feed from who knows where, but somewhere on your network, you could plug in an NDI monitor and have that going. So RJ has just booked his flight for NAB. He was not sure if he was going to make it, but he was telling me yesterday that the reason he's going was not for the stuff, it's for the people. There's the thought. There's the thought, because it's the people that you're going to hang out with, and they're going to give you that one idea that changes your whole business for the next year, or changes the whole way you do things at your church for the next year, or whatever it is. And that's going to be worth the trip right there. Worth the trip. There we go. Well, guys, we're going to fade into oblivion at this point. We've got a couple of PCs that have been on the workbench getting built that need to go off to their homes today. And so if you are thinking about having if you've been dealing with a PC that you either built yourself or you bought one off the shelf, and you're ready to have one that's professionally built, let me know. I'd be happy to talk with you about that. That's what we do. And one of the things that we're finding, and Al Bunt was telling me this, he built one for his church, and then he's the go-to guy. They got nobody else to blame if things don't get right. So he's like, Tom, as soon as I can, I want you to build one for our church so I can get off the hot seat. And in one way, it's a good idea to save resources and build it yourself. But on the other hand, it can get you into a jam, and if it does, I'd be happy to help you out of that jam. So there you go. So we're going to fold up the tents now. We will see you guys next week on Streaming Idiots. Not sure what we're going to be talking about, but it will be breathtaking, whatever it is. And don't forget, if you missed last week's show, to go back and catch it on Facebook or YouTube. It's when we were in the school studio, and it was a debacle, but it was a lot of fun, and the kids are great. So that made it all worthwhile. So on behalf of idiots everywhere, I wish you a fond good night, and I'll see you at NAB. And we'll let this thing run out. Let's see, do we have a way to let it just sort of fade out into oblivion? We used to have one of those ways. Yeah, here we go. We'll try this one.